When James Truslow Adams popularized the term American Dream in 1931, in the Epic of America, he defined the dream broadly, a vision of a land in which life should be better and richer and fuller for everyone, with opportunity for each according to ability or achievement, not merely material accumulation, but the chance to realize one's full capacities. By definition, the American dream is a cultural, political, and moral narrative in the United States centered on the idea that through effort, merit, and opportunity, individuals can improve their social and economic status and live a better life than their origins. At its core, it promises that birth circumstances should not forever determine outcome, that mobility, equality of opportunity, and personal freedom make possible a better life. The American dream has changed over time and varied by who you ask. For many, it includes home ownership, stable employment, upward economic mobility, access to education, raising children in a better environment, financial security in retirement, and accumulation of material comfort. For others, the dream is less material and more about freedom, autonomy, dignity, a fulfilling life, and the capacity to pursue one's own conception of happiness. The Archbridge Institute reported that 30% of Americans believe the American dream is out of reach for them. That is, roughly 3 in 10 felt this way. About 69% say they either have achieved it or are on their way. Here are 2 major structural and systemic reasons, among others, why many individuals fail to attain the American dream. 1. Income and wealth inequality and stagnating wages. One of the most persistent barriers is that income and wealth distributions are increasingly concentrated. Wages for many workers have stagnated over decades, while costs of housing, education, healthcare, and childcare have risen. Thus, even full-time workers may struggle to save, invest, or build assets. The gains of economic growth over recent decades have disproportionately flowed to the top. This inequality means that those starting from lower income or without capital have far less margin for risk, investment, or cushioning against shocks, making their climb steeper. 2. Unequal access to education, credit, and capital. Access to quality education, especially K-12 for low-income or minority communities, to affordable higher education and meaningful credentials is heavily stratified. Because education is a key channel for social mobility, inequalities entrench disparities. Similarly, access to credit for mortgages, small business, entrepreneurial ventures is unequal. Redlining, credit score biases, predatory lending, and discrimination restrict capital to historically marginalized groups. Without access to capital, aspiring entrepreneurs or home buyers are blocked. Please describe your experience with the American Dream narrative in the comments below. We are also interested in your redefinition or rejection of the American Dream narrative and hope you will share those practices too. Thank you for sharing this video and subscribing to this channel.
Before the sound of freeways and the flash of billboards, before the harbor cranes and studio lights, people lived by stories written on the land. The Tongva, known in older records as the Gabrielino, tended villages across the Los Angeles basin and the southern Channel Islands for millennia, tending oak groves, catching fish, and moving with the seasons. Their place names still survive in echoes. Tahunga, Cahuenga, Pacoima. Even as much else of that world was overwritten by new tongues and new maps. The Tongva and neighboring peoples shaped the first chapter of Los Angeles, a layered, place-based life whose details scholars and community members are working to recover and revitalize today.
In 1781, a column of settlers, soldiers, and their four-footed companions pushed into the basin and founded a pueblo on the banks of a river they called Porciuncula. Felipe de Neves' expedition planted El Pueblo de Nuestra Señora la Reina de Los Angeles on September 4th, a compact, irrigated settlement meant to extend Spanish colonial presence along California's coast. The pueblo grew, folded into the Mission Presidio system, and then into Mexican rule in 1821, a period when ranchos and cattle cultures reshaped land use and social hierarchies.
The 1848 Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo and the gold rush of 1849 threw Los Angeles into a new orbit. The city was now part of the United States, and the patterns of migration, commerce, and conflict shifted fast. By the 1860s, when the rest of the nation tore itself apart in civil war, Southern California was not free of those same fault lines. Los Angeles County contained vibrant secessionist sentiment, militias with Confederate sympathies, like the Los Angeles Mounted Rifles formed, and the city saw political and social contention between Unionists and secessionists. Federal troops were stationed in the region to deter violence, and some Angelenos left to fight on both sides. A reminder that even in the remote West, the Civil War's currents reached the Pacific.
As the 19th century turned into the 20th, Los Angeles unfurled into an American boomtown. Oil gushers, citrus groves, and a fledgling motion picture industry stitched new identities together. Hollywood studios, the ports at San Pedro and Long Beach, and a flourishing manufacturing base made Los Angeles a city of industries as much as a city of dreams. The two world wars accelerated that process. During World War II, Southern California became a manufacturing powerhouse. Aircraft plants, shipyards, and ordnance factories mobilized the region's industries and workforce, and by the end of the war, California produced a huge share of the nation's aircraft, a specialization that rooted the region's long-term role in aerospace and defense.
In the 21st century, the city wrestles with affordability crises, rising rents, and gentrification that has remade neighborhoods from Boyle Heights to Venice. Artists and tech workers who were once drawn by cheap lofts and empty warehouses contributed to a new market logic. As areas supposedly improved, costs rose, and longtime residents, often low-income renters and communities of color, were squeezed out. The narrative of creative class renewal sits uncomfortably next to block-level stories of loss and protest. Los Angeles stands at a crossroads, balancing its role as a global economic powerhouse with the growing challenge of affordability. As housing costs push many residents to relocate, the city faces pressures to innovate in urban planning, transportation, and equitable housing solutions. Yet, its influence in entertainment, technology, aerospace, and international trade ensures it remains a key player on the world stage. The future of Los Angeles may depend on its ability to embrace sustainability, inclusivity, and innovation, shaping a city that not only thrives economically, but also provides opportunity and stability for the diverse communities that call it home.
The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo was signed on February 2, 1940. It ended the Mexican-American War and had profound implications for the development and expansion of the United States. Here are 5 significant benefits it brought to the United States. 1. Territorial expansion. The treaty added approximately 525,000 square miles to U.S. territory, a massive land acquisition that included present-day California, Nevada, Utah, and portions of Arizona, Colorado, New Mexico, Wyoming, and Texas. This expansion established the continental United States as we largely know it today. 2. Economic growth opportunities. The new territories contained rich natural resources, including fertile land and gold, discovered in California shortly after the treaty, and other minerals. This helped spur economic development, especially during the California Gold Rush. 3. Facilitation of westward expansion. By solidifying U.S. claims over Western territories, The treaty provided the framework for the westward movement of settlers, infrastructure projects like railroads, and the expansion of trade networks ultimately fulfilled the idea of manifest destiny. 4. Strategic geographic control. The treaty gave the U.S. access to critical geographic features, including the Pacific coast, and ensured maritime access for trade with Asia, which also established strategic military and economic control. 5. Resolution of boundary disputes. The treaty clarified the U.S.-Mexico border, particularly around Texas and the Rio Grande. It reduced the potential for future conflicts with Mexico and provided stability for border states. These benefits came with consequences, including tensions over slavery in the new territories and the displacement of indigenous peoples. The Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo still impacts the political and economic aspirations of the United States in the 21st century. We need to also consider the consequences faced by Mexico after the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo. Consequences for Mexico. 1. Economic strain. The loss of rich mineral and agricultural regions significantly weakened Mexico's economy. It reduced its potential for growth and development. 2. Political instability. The defeat in the war and the humiliation of losing so much land exacerbated political instability in Mexico, which contributed to decades of internal strife and weakened governance. 3. Migration and cultural displacement. Many Mexicans found themselves living in the United States overnight. While the treaty promised protections for their rights and property, many were marginalized, dispossessed, or displaced in the years that followed. 4. Lasting resentment and national identity impact. The treaty created a legacy of distrust and resentment toward the United States. It shaped Mexican nationalism and its historical narrative about the war and its outcomes. Many of the current disputes surrounding the Mexican border with the United States are rooted in the Mexican-American War and the Treaty of Guadalupe Hidalgo.